glad I'm matching because like I said, I didn't come prepared. So I work from home, so there's no telling what I might look like from any day to day. You know how that
That's completely fair. Are you a parent at all?
I am, but my babies are grown. My daughter's the youngest and she's 20. What year is this? Yeah, she'll turn 24 this year. Wait, and look, I always use her birthday because she was born in 2000, so it's easy. You know
Oh
what I mean?
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm like, what year is this? Yeah. So yeah, she'll be 24 this year. I,
Oh, they
I
still
know.
stress you out though, right? No matter what age.
Oh yeah, it never ends. I was just complaining earlier today, like I have to pay this dental bill because my daughter wants to go to the dent. Like she can't afford dental insurance. Are you serious? Why are you still on my insurance? You're grown. She's a teacher.
The struggle is real.
You make as much money as I do. What are we doing? But you love them. I love her. And then my son, he's actually 26. He's the oldest of the two. And I know I have grown babies. I am a lot older than I look. I just hide the gray so no one can tell. But
Well, definitely cannot tell here. So,
yeah.
but thank you for being here. Thank you everybody tonight for joining us. We are live on our Zoom webinar, but we are also live on Facebook. And so, how this is going to go, I will introduce Dirk, and then Dirk is far more of an expert producer than I am, and so he's be asking, the interesting questions that our audience might also be wondering. And
Mhm.
during this time, people are able to kind of live share questions for you and make comments and stuff, but it's kind of up to your preference if you want to answer questions throughout the discussion or if you want to save the questions till the end. Completely up to you. So, um, my name is Christine, and for those of you watching, thank you for joining the South Dakota Specialty Producers Association webinar tonight. We are going to be discussing kind of expounding on what we talked about last week, but we're going to be talking about milk and natural Korean techniques versus regular other techniques. So I won't get too into that because, again, I'm not the expert on it, but I'm so excited to have both of you with us. And this segment is funded by a partnership with the Natural Resources Conservation Service, NRCS, and the South Dakota Specialty Producers Association to promote sustainable agricultural practices and environmental stewardship. So thank you all for joining us. We're manning our Facebook page, so if you have questions while we're talking, please comment, share, like. And if you want to be a part of the webinar, our link is in our description, and so you could be in the webinar chat, whichever is best for you. But yeah, Dirk, take it away.
Hi, so my name's Dirk Outman. I'm a producer here in South Dakota. My wife and I farm at Blue Sky Vegetable Company. Um, yeah, and I'm really excited to be joined by Danetta Boykin. Danetta, right? Or Donnie?
Yeah, Danetta. You can call me Donnie though.
You
Everyone does.
signed off on your emails as Donnie and it
I
confused me.
did.
All right. So, Danetta, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your farm?
Sure. I'm Donetta Boykin, and my farm is Indigo's Herbals and Organics located here in Dayton. I apologize. My dog just got thirsty. But my farm is Indigo's Herbals and Organics here in Dayton, Ohio. It's an urban farm, so I'm actually on three different locations right now. So we have a site out here in Trotwood, Ohio. It's a part of the Trotwood Incubator Program. And then we also just received two more locations. There is one on Helena Street. It used to be owned, actually used by another farmer, and they kind of like relinquished it, and we were blessed to get it. It's an acre and a half on that space. And then there's also a community farm, a community garden that we also received too. It's on Fairview. And that kind of ties into one of the other things that I do. I'm also the founder of Seven Seed Sowers Co-op. I founded this co-op based on my experience with the incubator farming program that Central State is doing with the city, with my city, the city of Trotwood. I really wanted to be able to provide like the next steps, if you will, or additional support for beginning farmers that were coming out of that program to try to help support them so that they can, get their legs underneath them, continue to grow after they completed the incubator program, and then, bridge out to do more farmers markets and, have more wholesale opportunities and provide like a little bit of technical support. And as a result of that, that's how we were actually also able to get a little additional farming space.
Mhm. Nice. I mean, that's quite a diverse range of agricultural interests.
Yes, and I still have a full-time day job, so don't ask me how I do it because most of the time I'm like, I don't sleep. I'm up till 2 o'clock in the morning, doing stuff online and then trying to farm in the afternoons. And people accuse me of having a tent in my car and sleeping at the farm site. Like it's the whole thing. But I always tell people like it's not work when you love it,
Mm,
when you're really doing something that you truly enjoy, the time flies,
mm.
as long as I don't have to roll out of bed at 4 o'clock in the morning to be anywhere, I'm great.
So, I mean, the name of your farm is Herbals and Organics, right? So like what kind of
Indigos,
products?
herbals, and organics.
Sorry, say that again.
It's indigos, herbals, and
Hmm.
organic. Well, I didn't want to put my name on it because I was like, nobody's gonna be able to pronounce Danetta. Like, so I was like, let me think of something a little more creative. And this is a little weird, but when I was growing up, I'm adopted. And so when I was little, my mom had asked me, like, do you want to change your name? Like, you can change your name. It can be anything you want. And I had to be 3 at the time when she asked me that question. And so my response to her was Bugs Bunny. Exactly. So being that said, I'm glad that she did not. Uh-oh. My dog got caught on the cord and almost just ripped the whole thing up. I'm glad she never did change my name, but then that always kind of like lingered in the back of my mind, like, oh, I should have said this or I should have changed my name to that. And as I was growing up, I came across the name Indigo, and I was like, oh my gosh, that is so creative and beautiful. So it just kind of stuck with me. And I was like, oh, if I ever have an opportunity, I'm going to change my name to Indigo. So my farm is Indigo's Herbals and Organics. And what I sell is, of course, organically grown produce. But
Mhm.
then I also sell herbs and like bulk herbs and teas and, oh gosh, any other kind of homemade products that I decide to make from day to day. Like for a while, I was doing like body butters and like bath teas and
Mhm.
like oils and stuff like that. I'm just a very creative person, so you never know what I might be. I could be crocheting next week. You never know.
So where are you going with your products, whether the produce or the herbs or the value added things you're creating?
Actually, there are several farmers markets in our area that we participate in. Currently, we participate in the Shiloh market, and then Trotwood has a farmers market. The Shiloh market is on Saturday mornings, typically 9 to 2. And that actually starts May, don't quote me on that, end of May, I want to
Mhm.
say. Might be butchering that. I don't remember the specific date off the top of my head. I apologize. And then also the Trotwood Farmers Market, that market is on Wednesdays from 3 to 7. And that one actually starts after the 4th of July, the first Wednesday after the 4th.
Mhm.
And then I also have a website, naturallyindigo.com. You can find me and all of my wonderful goods out there. Now, I will admit, it's been a busy year. I just had my website revamped the last year, totally redone. And so there are several products that I do not have on my website right now because, yeah, it just hasn't happened yet.
Mhm.
But there are products on my website that are for sale. And then we also do wholesale opportunities. So we participate in the CAN program. I know everyone, well, locally, I was going to say, locally it's called the Ohio CAN program. And basically what it is it gives local farmers an opportunity to sell their products directly to like the food bank
Mm, mhm.
get that to the community. But it also provides local farmers the opportunity to, get retail prices for their wholesale items, which is huge, because a lot of
Right.
times when you're selling wholesale, you're not getting, you're not getting, of course, retail prices. You're getting like
Hmm.
what, maybe 15 cents for a bunch of onions, that
Hmm.
kind of, or, maybe 60 cent for a bunch of collard greens versus $3 for a bunch. So it makes it a lot more productive and lucrative for the farmers and helps them to, create a consistent stream of income that can kind of keep their farm going.
Hmm. Is that a program Ohio's had for a long time, or is that a recent thing?
No, actually, that's a recent program. It just started last year.
Hmm.
And fingers and toes crossed. They're working to get it into the farm bill to be a more of a consistent thing. Because if
Hmm.
I'm not mistaken, and don't butcher me on this, it's called something different in everyone's state. But
Yeah, we have a
yeah,
similar program, and I think they're, oh man, the local food assistance program, I think they're calling it here. And again, right, where food pantries and food banks are buying at full price from local producers and then distributing that produce around the state.
yeah. So we're hoping, fingers and toes crossed, that it can become more of a permanent thing because
Hmm.
I think it's a wonderful opportunity.
Hmm.
One of the struggles I think for farmers is really, especially, well, just any farmers, we'll just say any farmers across the board, is to be able to produce a healthy product, a nutrient-rich product or produce or whatever, and actually be able to sell it at a price that makes it possible for you to continue the good work that you're doing, but then also makes it possible for people in your community, no matter what income stream they're receiving, to have access to it. There's a lot of
Absolutely.
I've seen a lot of like value added stuff that people do, and you're just like, you're charging how much? But the reason why they're charging so much is because, the amount of work that took to actually create the product, but then they have to actually get, X, Y, and Z from another vendor, be it jars, labels, or whatever. And because they are such a small producer, it costs them a lot more because they can't buy, huge in bulk quantities or
Hmm.
whatever. So then they end up selling like for example, I don't want to say the product that I'm thinking about because the person might be listening. It might be, like some soup or something
Yeah.
that they got, canned or whatever, and then they're charging like 15, $20 for,
Hmm.
what I mean? But that's because that's almost how much it really costs them to produce it. And so I feel like a lot of times, there are people that miss out on the goodness that us farmers have to give because they can't afford $15 for a jar of soup.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely. No, that's always, I mean, yeah, that's always a struggle, right? As producers and especially as small scale producers, right? We don't get those economies of scale. And then so how do we make it fair and equitable for people to access so that yeah, we're not just selling to a certain segment of the population, but at the same time, like you said, that we can make enough money to survive and thrive on our farms.
Exactly. I'm looking forward to seeing more programs come out to kind of bridge that gap for people because it hurts my heart when I hear about little kids that literally have never had a cucumber. Like literally, oh, well, she's not listening. There's a little girl, and I call her a little girl because she's my daughter's age. 23 had never had like a cucumber before. And I was just like, wait, so you don't eat pickles? But when you grow up and you don't, you know what I mean? You don't make the correlation. You don't know,
Yeah.
But then to even if you do, even if you ever have had a pickle, to still never have had a cucumber,
Hmm.
at 23 years old is mind boggling to me. But it just does show that there's like a huge chunk of our population that does live off of a lot of more processed foods because that's what's affordable.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Affordable and available, right? I mean, shelf
Yeah.
stability is such a struggle for fresh produce, right?
Oh,
And
yeah.
whereas processed foods, shoot, they stay good for forever, right? So that they
Right.
can be available in more places for longer without, having to have so much thrown away. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't have a good segue here. So I wanted to talk to you about Korean natural farming, right? That's really what drew this webinar together was you've done some research work through a SARE grant about Korean natural farming and milk. But I think before we dive into the project,
Okay.
I mean, I give us like the basics of Korean natural farming because you gotta assume that a lot of people, especially I'm gonna be honest, especially in South Dakota, we don't really know what Korean natural farming is. I mean, I've read about it in a couple of like trade magazines, but that's it. So give us the basics of what it is.
You know what? I will say for me, Korean natural farming is like the most down home, basic, regenerative style of farming that I've ever seen. Like you're literally taking items and ingredients that you have actually at your house to feed your farm. Literally, that's like the most basic. And I mean, that is literally the most basic definition that I can give you. And that's one of the reasons why I love it. I'm very much the type of person, um, found out like, oh, you can make your own apple cider vinegar. And I was like, wait, what? That's a thing. You know what I mean? Like, who,
Hmm.
who do I know that does that? But my cousin, who he's young, he's like my son's age. He's 26. He was the one who turned me on to Korean natural farming. But he's also the one who told me, like, cuz you can get a SCOBY and make your own apple cider vinegar. And that I'm tying these all two together. So apple cider vinegar is one of the main things that they use in Korean natural farming to like ferment different items. So for example, and I don't there's like 9 different solutions that you can make,
Hmm.
but of all 9 of them, it's like literally items that you have at your house. I'm trying to get my what's the name to scroll at the same time and use my hands, and it's not working. Wait a minute, give me 1 second. So, for example, one thing that they definitely use is indigenous microorganisms. So, with that, your IMOs are literally you taking like leaf mold and or a bowl, going outside, putting some rice in it, sitting that rice under some leaves. You don't want it to get rained on or anything. And it literally is going to get moldy.
Hmm.
It collects the organisms from outdoors in your yard. And you use that to create like what they call an IMO mixture, where they literally take that the rice mold, mix it with brown sugar, let it sit for a little while. Then after that sits for a while, they'll add a little bit of water to it, maybe some fermented plant juice or and some fish aminos, and then they'll dilute it further and use that and spray it on the soil, and that feeds the microorganisms within the soil.
Hmm.
And basically, the whole point of Korean natural farming is to keep your soil healthy so that you don't have pests and issues on the farm. If you keep your soil healthy, then your plants are going to be healthy. Your plants are going to have like a really healthy immune system, and any pests that come in are not going to bother them at all. They're going to be like, oh my gosh, there's nobody weak here for us to take over. We're going to go and eat on something else that, we can access and we can really munch on because all these people over here are strong and we can't handle it. That's
Hmm.
literally what Korean natural farming is. They'll take fermented plant juice is basically a mixture of, let's say, comfrey, sweet potato leaves, or like your leaf clippings or grass clippings from your yard, ferment it down, add a little brown sugar to it, let it sit for a while. So I don't know if when you were little, did your mom ever do the what is it? The strawberry strawberry shortcake,
Yep.
where she took like the strawberries and just put some sugar in them
Hmm.
and set them in the refrigerator and they make their own juice.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
It's literally that. That's
Hmm.
literally what you're doing, but you're doing it with like the plants. And I
Hmm.
feel like my phone is about to Oh, I'm gonna take you with me.
Sure.
But it's literally that. You're literally taking the plants and mixing them with some brown sugar and then letting it sit and ferment. And then after it ferments, you're gonna dilute it down with water. And then that is going to be that's gonna be your plant food.
Hmm.
That's your nutrients for your plants. Then they also do one, it's called Oriental Herbal Nutrient. That is a mixture of cinnamon, garlic, ginger, angelica, turmeric, and licorice. They do the same thing. It's all the leaves. You put it in some brown sugar, or they call it over there jaggery because it's not our brown sugar. It's
Hmm.
actual real brown sugar cane.
Hmm.
But mix it with the leaves, let it sit for like 5 days, and you're gonna see like it's gonna get like juicy and saucy or what have you. And then they'll strain it out, strain all the leaves and stuff out of it, and then they'll mix some alcohol with it. And the alcohol is essentially the preservatives that makes it able to sit, adds the shelf life to it or whatever. And then when you get ready to use that, that's essentially if there's any issues, like if your plants are starting to get a little sad or getting a little sick or there's a pest problem, then you'll add the Oriental herbal nutrient. That's to like kind of help boost the immune system of your plants.
Hmm.
But
So
that
just let me jump into the question. So the all those plant leaves that you listed off there, I don't know, maybe Dayton's a very special microclimate, but do you have those growing?
well, that is the wonderful thing. Um, Originally, now let me back up. I'll tell you this. Comfrey, yes, I do have growing. A
Hmm.
lot of this stuff is stuff that you can source locally, or
Hmm.
being the fact that I'm just like into herbs anyway, I get a lot of bulk herbs from other co-ops. So
Hmm.
like, oh gosh, what is Herbco is one that I get a bunch of stuff from. People I know a lot of people use Mountain Rose herbs a
Hmm.
lot. They'll buy a lot of stuff from there. And there is a process for using dried herbs. So they don't have to be fresh. You can kind of
Hmm.
rehydrate them that kind of way. But the whole point is that 97.8% of this, and I say 97.8 because that's just like that's a number I just use randomly. It's not like actual number, but
I was going to be so
97.8,
impressed.
right? Yeah, no, that's just like a random percentage that I just pull out my pocket whenever I need it. But 97.8% of this is supposed to be items that you can grow yourself. So like I've grown ginger, garlic, cinnamon, no, that's not one that I will grow, but I would get, you know what I mean? You can
Right.
buy, yeah. So
No,
then,
that's the one that caught my attention, and I was going to be really impressed if you just had some cinnamon growing out on the farm.
right. And see, that's the thing though. Like when I did my research, the Sayer grant, that was one of the biggest problems because there were so many items that I could not get my hands on because we were like in the middle of the pandemic. So the supply
Mm-hmm.
chain was horrible. Now, said all that to say this, there are actually two different versions of Korean natural farming. I know
Mm.
that I know, right? So the one that I'm talking about right now is my favorite because it's all natural. This is all plants. That's all you're doing is recycling plants, and they do even a little thing with milk where they separate the curds in a way, and they call it, okay, I'm gonna butcher the name, lactose blah 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 blah. You know what I'm talking about?
I
I
do.
can never
Yeah.
say it. So they use that to labs or what have you. But that is the version of Korean natural farming that was created by Master Cho. He's essentially the dad of this story. Well, his son comes along and he's like, yeah, I can do it quicker, I can do it better. And he creates his own version, which is called Jadam. It's Jadam, but
Mhm.
it's still Korean natural farming. And what he does, he actually uses a total different, like, I mean, it's kind of the same scenario, but it's kind of the quick and dirty version, if you will, of Korean natural farming. So he's using more like um sulfur, sea salt, sodium hydroxide, um, potassium hydroxide. He does use leaf mold like his dad does. So a lot of those items were stuff that I could just find on Amazon. You
Mm.
know, I just ordered all that stuff from Amazon. And again, you can mix all of these products yourself. It is very cheap, or it's very pocket friendly, I would like to say. So like most of the farmers that use these methods, they've literally reduced their out-of-pocket expenses from like thousands of dollars down to like 100 and something dollars. Like it cost me less than, well, no, with shipping and handling, a little over $100 to order all the products. And this stuff I still have enough on hand to last me at least 3 to 5 years,
Okay.
you know. And what I purchased though, literally was just I was focused on powdery mildew.
Mm.
Powdery mildew was like the bane of my existence for a while because I love squash and zucchini. And it's like every year, just like, like clockwork. It would just come in and just ravage my plants. And so when I heard about these two different methods and how their goal is to, create a healthy farm so that you don't have to deal with these items, and they literally are really great for like mold and mildew issues. That's what I decided to focus my Sayer grant research on.
Mhm. So is that so you're mixing up these solutions, right? Whether they're the natural ones you're fermenting yourself or the mineral based ones, right?
Right.
Um, how often are you applying that to your plants? And I guess the other question I'd have, are those just for like disease and pest control, or are those also like some fertility management?
No, actually it's both. It's for disease and pest control, but also fertility. It's to actually provide nutrients to your plants, nutrients to the soil. So it's literally a overall care package, if you will, for your farm.
Hmm.
And typically the goal is to apply them weekly. Um, any more than that, especially with the method that I'd use, because I ended up using the Jadam method just because, like I said, the supply chain was weird. Yeah, that is like a weekly application. Any more than that, and you do have to worry about, leaf burn and things like that just from overuse of those products. So that kind of freaked me out a little bit. And then I was kind of weirded out by, like there's, what is it? Sulfur. That's like lye, isn't it? I'm gonna butcher
Mm.
which one's lye, but yeah, that's lye or whatever. And I'm just like, I remember back in the day, we used to have like lye perms and stuff, and it just caused all kind of problems to our hair, and I just couldn't even imagine. So for me, I think I had like flashbacks or something. Was like, no, we're gonna use this as minimum as
Hmm.
possible,
Hmm.
to achieve our results. But it does work. Now, I will say this. A shocker for my research, what really blew me away was how effective milk is.
I would
Like
not have
really,
expected milk.
yeah. And never did I expect, because somebody else was like, oh, you can use milk to treat powdery mildew. And I was like, yeah, sure you can, kind of thing. It sounds great, kind of thing. And they were like, no, there's really research on it, like it's really effective and blah, blah, blah. And so I'm like, okay. And I tried it. And when I tell you the plants loved it, like it really was very, very effective. I felt safer using it. And so one of the things that ultimately I learned from my research was it really just is dependent upon what type of farm you have, what you have accessible to you, which direction you should go in.
Mm-hmm.
Like I use a organic copper fungicide, and then what is the other one? Oh, Serva and Sturgis. One is a copper and the other one is a Why is that dropping from my brain right now? Bio, anyway. The whole point was I literally this past year was chaotic. I had like several people pass away in my family, like boom, 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 boom. And so I was just out of it mentally. And I messed around and accidentally applied Sturgis to the Cerva plants and Cerva to the Sturgis plants. And I had a better result that way than I did. Like the turnaround time or the recovery time for those plants was like half the time of just using Sturgis the whole season and Cerva the whole season.
Mm.
And I never even thought about that. And one of the things, we have an instructor at CSU, Mark Amante. He helps me out with my research and stuff a lot of times. And so I'm telling him about it. He's like, well, yeah, sometimes it's better to mix them, swap them out. Like you don't want to stick with any one particular treatment method. Like sometimes
Mhm.
it is a lot more productive for you to do like a rotation. And that really did kind of prove the point. Like if you're going to buy, a commercially organic fungicide, I say buy two different ones and rotate them because you're going to have a way better outcome than if you do just using one particular one.
Mhm.
However, if you have a cow on your farm, go with the milk.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you have a cow. But for me, I had to drive all the way out to the market, to go pick up milk every week because, the shelf life on milk, you know what I mean? So
Mhm.
that was a pain in the butt. And then and then trying to find like organic, milk as an arm and a leg. So then
Well,
there was
so
that.
I was wondering about that. When you say you're spraying milk,
Mhm.
are you spraying, just like the whole milk from the store, or are you getting organic and raw, or?
Now, this is the fun. Um, the research that I checked into on that prior to me doing it, a lot of people were like, use raw if you can get your
Mhm.
hands on it. And when I was out, because I don't know, there's a lot of stuff I don't know, you know what I mean? And I was like, I'm pretty sure that is not legal, is it? You can't just go around buying, I don't think they sell that. And so I went and asked the person because, it never hurts to ask. And he's like, no, we cannot sell you raw milk. Wink, wink. However, and I'm cracking up laughing. He's like, however, I know a guy that'll meet you in the alley. I was like, no, it's fine. It's just give me the organic. You know what I mean? I don't need you breaking laws for research because I'm gonna have to explain where I got it from, So
Yeah.
it's okay. So I did. I just got regular organic milk and you dilute it like a 1-to-10 ratio, give or take. So yeah, just trying to have that. And I'm not a milk drinker. So
Mm.
having that on hand, you know what I mean? I was like,
Mhm.
and now I got to make trips to the store every week to go buy milk just so I can spray this stuff. But the plants loved it. So
Mm.
I'm like, if you have a cow on your farm, go that route. It's amazing.
Mhm.
Then the benefits of the Jadam method is you can literally make a gallon of this stuff and it never expires.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it has no expiration date. So that was the beautiful part of that. Like, oh, I can make all of this at the beginning of the season, put it on a shelf somewhere, and as long as it's staying in like a cool, dark place kind of thing or whatever, it's gonna be good until I need it.
Mhm. Mhm.
So, and it's cost friendly. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
if you're all like mad scientists out there loving mixing, stuff up, go that method. It just depends on what really works best for you.
Interesting.
Yeah, it
So
was
yeah,
fun.
it
It
sounds
was,
like it was fun. So tell us, I know you said that maybe your trials didn't all go how you imagined, but give us at least some like anecdotes. Like, did you see improvement on some of those diseases you were watching for? Did you see other side effects from the Korean natural farming or the milk? Or yeah, tell us about how it went.
yeah. Okay. So because things got crazy last year, I just told Sarah, I said, look, I'm gonna do it again. I'm gonna do another year on this because I really want to have accurate findings. And, I know I was totally distracted just by life in general and everything that was going on. So I didn't want to have blanket, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
So I told them I would do another year. And then last year was more focused on um, recovery, for treatment only,
Mm-hmm.
and where I did, where I actually had the farm site, we were at the incubator farm in Trotwood. So one of the crazy parts about that is I'm not the only person farming on that site. So I would clean it up, like clear up. Oh, it's great. My plants look great for about a week. And then because neighbor Kevin over here has, powdery mildew on his stuff, now it's right back, So I literally was treating off and on the whole entire, season.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, half a season, but I think everything really went well. Like the only problem that I had, I did lose a couple of plants with the Korean natural farming method. And again, it's because I know I'm heavy-handed.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's a difference between a spray and a saturation. And I figured that out the hard way. Like I was really like drowning them, like, oh, like you're not supposed to wash the powdery mildew off. You're just supposed to spray it, Donnie. So because of that, I did lose a couple plants doing that.
Well, and I'm
Um,
sure, especially if you're doing the Jadam method, because that sounds like
yeah,
it's more, like you said, it's got lye in it, right? And I know my
yeah,
wife has made soap at home before, and like getting that diluted to the right amount, if you get a little too much of that, it goes from a nice soap to it'll melt your skin off.
exactly, exactly. So yeah, that I was like, no, Donnie, you are really jacking this up. Like you need to calm down, like focus, because it's not as forgiving as
Right.
some of the other methods are. I feel like
When
even using, huh?
I was just say, and I suppose with the other one you described, right, Master Cho,
Yeah,
that because that's more naturally derived, that would be more forgiving because it's hard to apply too much fermented plant juice,
exactly,
as a, you know, it's not the same thing as putting down, potassium hydroxide or something like that. You get too much,
exactly.
it starts to do damage.
Exactly. And that's why this year my goal, okay, and then I'm like, I don't know why I was like push the scale for myself. But this year I'm going to try to do both.
Hmm.
I'm gonna try to do both and see if just because really, okay, to be honest, I really want to transition my farm site to using the Master Cho's method of Korean natural, the original method. I want to use that just in general on my farm just because I think it's amazing.
Hmm.
And there's a lot of ways, I'll throw this out there for people too. There's a lot of ways that you can modify it to where it makes sense for where you are. Because like you said, there are some items that you're not going to have readily available that, of course, because they're in Korea, they have
Hmm.
that. But I think if you spend the time, my goal is always to learn the method the correct way first. It's like learning a recipe. You learn how to make your mom's macaroni and cheese, and then after you figure out how she made it and you make it taste the same way she did, then you can tweak it and make it your own.
Hmm.
So right now it's that process of me just learning the method, and then kind of you can tweak it and make it your own. I know people, I don't say I know people. I've read people using, like comfrey leaves. And I was like, oh, that wasn't in the original recipe. And then some other people are like, oh, well, we use sweet potato leaves, because that's what they grow and that's,
Hmm.
what they have on hand. And it really is just knowing like, oh, you want stuff that has like, pesticidal benefits kind of essentially, anything that's going to
Right.
give you like that pest control benefit, you can swap that out for some of this other stuff. So to me, that's very much a more forgiving, a lot more flexible versus you need to measure this exact amount of sulfur and then you have to have a heat resistant container to mix it in and let it sit for, I was in here like, oh I'm gonna blow up something. Like I was so worried. I was so worried. And then, milk. I keep harping on the milk. My plants love the milk. I mean, literally my squash plants, they were standing up. The leaves were all pretty green. Like of all of the methods that I use, those are the ones that were treated with milk. They actually produce new leaves quicker, like
Hmm.
new growth. I mean, it just made them happy. And I was like,
Hmm.
huh, maybe milk does a body good. I just don't like milk. I just can't wrap my mind around it. But it did great for them. And then the commercial, the organic, okay, the commercial organic methods or treatments. I always butcher how I say this. I apologize. The Sturgis and the Serva. It wasn't bad. Um, yeah, it wasn't bad. I don't know. I just, from my own personal taste, I'm very much like, if I gotta wear gloves, anything that I gotta put on like protective gear, it kind of freaks me
Hmm.
out a little bit applying
Hmm.
it. You know what I mean? Because I'm not the only one that lives here. I'm one of those
Right.
people that like freak out over squirrels. Like, we're killing the squirrels. You know what I mean? So for me, that was just a bit much. And if you can overuse Sturgis, you can't overuse Serva. You can, if you spill them and they go down the drain, yes, you got to call people because you're
Hmm.
contaminating the waterway. You know what I mean? So for
Hmm.
me, that was just a little like, they say it's organic and I'm going to use it because that's what you told me. But I'd rather use this method because I
Hmm.
know, these are safe and milk is milk,
Hmm.
and grass clippings and brown sugar ain't never hurt nobody, or, vinegar and using vinegar and eggshells. That's another part of the Korean natural farming is to make calcium, what is it called? Like, I know what it is, but I can't remember the name. I called a guy Paul for 2 years and his name was Robert. So that's how I am with names. But it's water soluble calcium phosphate. They do
Hmm.
like bones, like chicken bones or beef bones or anything like that, and ferment them in vinegar, and they get calcium that way. And
Hmm.
then there is also another water soluble calcium that they get from just eggshells fermented in vinegar, and they use that too to out calcium to the soil. So all of that stuff I can relate to because I know what it is. I ate probably what it came from anyway. You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
if it's good for
Hmm.
my body, then I know it's healthy for the soil, which makes it healthy for my body, whatever's coming out of the soil. So
Hmm.
it creates, I feel like, that good, like, symbiotic
Yeah.
relationship between you and the earth.
Well, and yeah, I mean, you're talking about the wearing the gloves and the PPE when you're using some of the organic fungicides, and I mean, if nothing else, for me, I always come back to a quality of life thing, right? Like I'm more likely to do the sprays if they don't require me to think through, okay, now I've got to put on the mask and I've got to put on goggles and I got to put on the gloves, and then I can't go back in that field for a day because of, it's got a reentry period. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, like you said, right? Milk is milk. Like you could spray that on and walk right back through the field afterwards, and then, I've got little kids, right? And so
Yeah.
I don't have to worry about where my kids are running around or if they're getting into bottles they shouldn't be getting into, or things like
Yeah.
that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think you make an excellent point about the using things that we have around, as something that makes us feel better about what we're doing. Because, most of us get into the organic side, especially production, because of that, right? Because we don't want to just use chemicals that we don't feel are real safe for us to create food.
Well, yeah, and then I'll throw this in there too. So I had someone tell me like, "Oh, you can just put a sign up and people will know that you sprayed and stuff, and that'll be great." And I was like, "Are we making signs for the deer? Are the deer reading the sign? Are the birds reading the sign?" Like, my farm isn't just for me.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? It's not just for me, it's not just for us. Like, I've gone out to the incubator site, pulled up, got out the car, and the deer is just standing there munching, like, "Hi, how you doing?" And I'm like, "Dude, you don't even care that I'm here, right? You just eat right in front of me." Like, he was just like smashing somebody's okra. Didn't even
Oh
care.
man.
You know what I mean? But on the same hand, we jokingly said at one point, like, we'll just plant a whole bed or two full of okra down at on the corner down there. That'll feed them all season the way okra grows.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? And then they'll leave our stuff alone. But see,
Hmm.
that's the mindset too. It's like, you know, if you believe in kind of a responsible harvesting type idea, or I read a book recently and they were talking about honorable harvesting, and I was like, oh my gosh, that is so true. But if you kind of believe in that ideology, you know that anything that you're growing, it's not just for you. You're feeding not only your family, your community, but you're also feeding the soil, you're feeding the birds because they're good. You know, they're coming to eat when you
Hmm.
ain't there,
Hmm.
you know, so you're feeding, you know, nature as well. And as long as that's kind of your mindset and you remember that, you know, you're actually creating a healthy environment just for everyone across the board because essentially we all got to be here together, you know.
Hmm. So we're getting close to the end of our time. We got a couple of questions that came in. So one question, we could circle back to other stuff, but
No, you're
uh,
fine. I talk a lot. I'm sorry.
no, you're good. So can you use essential oils instead of dried herbs in the Master Cho method?
Ooh. Okay. So I wouldn't. And the only reason why I say that I wouldn't, don't get me wrong, I love essential oils, but since essential oils are very strong and very potent. And I think that one, when we're talking about using, when we're talking about being natural, especially to that level with the Master Cho method, you want to keep it as close to unprocessed as possible. And if that, I mean, unprocessed might be not be the best word for me to use when we're talking about essential oils. But the way I was told about essential oils is like that essential oils are very, very strong. It's almost like a drug, like because they can change the chemistry of just about anything, just a drop or two. You know what I mean? And so that almost is like, yeah, no, I wouldn't. I would not if I had any other option. I know I said that kind of strongly, like I would not
No,
do
that's all
use
right.
essential oil. I'm sorry, I'm silly too.
And then what's the turnaround time to see results after your spray? So I guess maybe to flesh that out, are you spraying, particularly with milk, but even with the K and F stuff, are you spraying that like proactively? Like you're just starting to spray it, you know, on a weekly basis, or are you waiting till you see the mildew on the plants and then reacting to the disease pressure?
Okay, actually, you can do both. Now, there is preventative measures, which this year I'm going to focus more on the preventative side. So you'll see that in the outcome of my research for this year. But last year was just mainly focused on treatment because I knew as like it's coming and the way the farm is set up, there was no way. I was like, let's just do one at a time. But you do spray on a weekly basis. So you're going to spray once a week. Well, once you start seeing the powdery mildew, you spray once a week. Depending
Mhm.
on how bad you let it get before you spray, of course, it's going to take longer. If you're in the beginning stages and you spray it, you twice, two sprays, and it's going to start, you know, you're going to start seeing it clear up like very quickly. Um, if it's bad, like you literally let it just like get saturated on the leaves, and I do have a scale that I use. If you're like at a 3 or 4 on that scale, it's going to take a lot longer, of course, for you to have that turnaround. But even still, I felt like the turnaround time was a lot quicker actually with the Jadam method and the commercial organic than the milk.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I caught the milk early and did it, they loved it. It was great. But it does take a little bit longer if it was like full on fire, you know, 4 alarm fire
Hmm.
kind of or what have you.
Hmm. No, and I think that makes sense, right? Because
Mhm.
yeah, oftentimes some of those more natural solutions are really supposed to bolster plant health and maybe, you know, inoculate the leaves with other bacteria rather than, you know, yeah, like you said, either putting down a copper solution or you know, a hydroxide or something like that, where you're really just burning everything off the leaves, right?
Yeah.
At some level, you're just cooking it all. And
Yeah.
so that'll give you a lot quicker turnaround, but maybe not necessarily the same long-term resilience to the disease.
Right, exactly,
Hmm.
exactly. And, I'll say too, like the healthier methods, I believe, okay, I'll say I believe, I'm thinking with the prevention using the healthier methods, oh yeah, it's probably going to be a whole total different aspect where they will be the winners of the race, so to speak, because that's kind of their purpose, is to keep
Hmm.
things. So, with most natural things, even I joke a lot of times, like if you take your vitamins and you eat healthy, you don't wait until you get sick to start taking your vitamins and eating healthy. You're not gonna, you're dragging your cart up a hill trying to do that. No,
Hmm.
you do it when you're already healthy. And it's still the same way with like taking care of your farm.
Hmm.
If you're applying the natural methods in the very beginning while your plants are young, as they're growing, you're applying all the different solutions, based on where their stage of development, you're going to have a healthier outcome. More than likely, you won't even see any of those pests that we've been, well, the powdery mildew that I was fighting like crazy.
Hmm.
And that was one of my concerns too. That's why I didn't want to treat it originally, because I was like, I'm going to do this and then there will be no powdery mildew, you know what I mean? Like I won't
Hmm.
know how effective it is in the treatment method, because we're going to prevent it from Jump Street. Like they've
Right.
already proven that kind of in their own research with those other two methods, with the milk and the Korean natural farming.
Hmm. Hmm. All right. So to sum up, milk is nice, diluted at 10-to-1 ratio. Jadam solutions are long-term shelf stable, and you can
Mhm.
find those solutions online, or is
Yes,
there a book?
you can find the ingredients for the solutions in your Amazon store. However, there are two different websites that you can get the solutions from. The Jadam, Jadam. You can look that up. They actually sell pre-made solutions that you can order from them. The Korean natural farming Master Cho method. There is a guy on YouTube. His name is Drake, Eric Drake, and I can't remember his last name, but it's KNF Hawaii. If
Hmm.
you look him up, you can find every last tutorial for his year 1 certification is online.
Okay.
You go to his website, all of the just about all the recipes and stuff. You can even find them on Pinterest at this point. Like they're everywhere. And then there's also a guy in North Carolina, I believe. His name is Chris Trump. Chris Trump. He
Mhm.
also does Korean natural farming. He studied with Master Cho also. And you can buy products, pre-made products directly from him. And he also has like training programs also.
Okay. Nice. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Christine, how much time do we have left?
Wow, we've got like 30 seconds. It's been a really informative hour, and I've just been sitting here listening along, and it, the things that seem very simple of like everybody should know that, like, oh, don't douse, your solutions on. I needed you to say that because I wouldn't know. I'd be like, oh, okay, every day, psh, but it's very helpful tips like that we really appreciate, and getting to know actual user experience, I think, is the most educational tool we can give our producers. So thank you for your time and your knowledge.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure. Like I love it. Any help that I can be to spread knowledge and to be a service to the community, I am here for. Look, Farmers Unite.
Yes, yes, and you're a very busy woman, and so we really appreciate your time and
Thank
your
Yeah,
you.
we
knowledge.
really do.
We have several different opportunities for our producers throughout the year, so maybe we will be in touch again, and hopefully we can share more of your knowledge with our producers. But for everybody joining on Facebook Live and stuff, we'll make sure to have her contact information in the chat and her links and stuff so that you can continue following her journey. And if you have any personal questions, you can reach out to her on your own. And thank you, Dirk, for hosting. You do a lovely job as always.
Yes.
But I just want to remind everybody that these segments are funded by a partnership with NRCS and SDSPA to promote sustainable agricultural practices and environmental stewardship. And follow our Facebook page to see upcoming events that we have. We always have something going on. We're happy to keep ourselves busy and in work and help support our specialty producers. So thank you both and have a great night.
Bye.
Thank you.
Good night.